Hello and welcome back, and as you can see from that clip before, it's raining, and raining quite hard and windy outside today. So today I'm going to come inside in the comfort of my bedroom and I'm going to speak to you about the gardening jobs you can do in June, which is a video that I've been doing for the last, since April, so 2 months. I've been doing it at the start of every month. I've been showing you the jobs you can do in your garden for that month, and they seem to be doing quite well. You seem to be enjoying them, so I thought I'd carry it on as a bit of an ongoing thing. Before we get started with the video, I'd just like to make sure that you've gone over to my YouTube channel, hit the subscribe button, and also hit the little bell icon to make sure that you're notified next time I upload a video. So the first job that you can do this month is to clear out any old or plants that have gone over their best. So for example, if your salad have started to go to seed or your lettuce is finished from picking the outer leaves, you can go and you can clear this out, and you can top dress the soil with compost if you like, or if your soil's good enough, you can just plant the next plant straight in, especially if you've been succession sowing, which is one of my biggest tips in gardening, to get a continuous harvest. If you've been successionally sowing, you could just put a plant straight in, and then within a couple of weeks you'll have a harvest. You can also clear things that are finished, like brassicas that you've overwintered, or broad beans you've overwintered. If you've already got all the crops, or most of the crops you can get from these, I would just get rid of them, and it'll clear up a space in your bed. And when you're clearing out plants, you can cut with a knife or with secateurs, you can cut the base and then leave the roots in the ground to rot down. Or alternatively, what you can do is you can just pull the roots out, shake the earth off, and then rake off or flatten off with your feet or your hands. Make your bed flat, and then you can just use that bed for whatever plant you need next. I use a bit of both, mainly with things like brassicas. I just cut at the base, but doing this I've started to have the problems now where they're starting to regrow, which means I'm having to pull the roots out. So it's all up to you. It's a bit of personal preference. Another big job, which is really a job for all around the year, but especially at the moment, keep the beds clear of weeds around the plants that you've got growing, because these will take the nutrients, the water and the light from the plants that you're growing, which means smaller harvests. But things like nettles can be good for the garden, but anything that's going to be there that isn't giving you any use at all, I'd recommend you get rid of it. And then this means that all the energy from the soil and the nutrients from the soil and the water will go into the plants that you want. And water is a very valuable thing at the moment, because all my water butts are just about full. However, it is raining a lot, and hopefully my water butts that are connected to the gutter will really be filling up today and over the next week, because there's meant to be a lot of rain here. Another thing you can do is you can still sow a lot of brassicas, such as kale, sprouts. You can do leeks, which I know is an allium, but basically winter veg. There's a lot of winter veg that you can still grow, and I turn to a lot of gardening books for this. And if you want to see my favourite gardening books, you can click up here. Alternatively, you can go down in the description and I'll have the links to all of my favourite gardening books for you to go and check out on Amazon. I really recommend growing brassicas and winter veg, because I think it's a really, really staple part of growing your own food, is trying to lengthen your growing season. And if you can grow into winter, that's great, because that means that your hungry gap is really, really small. And the hungry gap is the space between the last harvest from the plants planted the last year and the first harvest of that year. So, for example, with me, the hungry gap is probably quite big, because I have such a small garden, I can't really fit a lot in. So over winter there's not much that can grow, and I'm not very good at growing things over winter, like parsnips, and I can't really grow a lot of brassicas. So that's why my hungry gap is so big. Whereas someone on a small holding who's nearly self-sufficient, such as Liz Zorab maybe, her hungry gap will be a lot smaller, or she won't have a hungry gap, because she's good at storing her food and growing over winter. And storing food is something that I really want to get better at this year. Also, you can sow your second crop of lettuce and also carrots and things like that are reasonably quick croppers, especially salads like radishes. You can do a second or third, or you may even be on your fourth crop. You can just sow another row or another module tray. And I like sowing in module trays because you can just plant them straight out into the ground. And I've also got a video from recently on my channel, if you go back, which is about direct sowing versus module sowing. So if you're confused about that, make sure you go and check it out, and it'll also be up here. So yeah, I like to module sow lettuce. I know some people like module sowing and multi-sowing radish in modules. I tend to just sow radish in a row, and rather than thinning out then, I harvest a few when they're small, and then I let the others get bigger, and then we harvest all of them, which isn't up to some, this method isn't some other people's favourites. Some other people like to just thin out and then put the other bits in the compost, but I don't like wasting seed. I'm really tight about wasting seed, and I try and use everything that I've got rather than wasting it, because I think you're wasting money and it's extra food that you could be getting. And this point is a very exciting point as well, is because we're starting to get into summer now, you can start harvesting a lot of crops. So salads, things like that, carrots, you might be able to harvest, onions, things like this, maybe even some field or dwarf beans, they might be ready with you. And peas will start to be ready as well towards the end of the month, or if not, they will be starting to flower, and you may even be harvesting your early potatoes. And that's why I really love June. June and May are probably my favourite months, because it's starting to get warm after winter and spring, and you also start to harvest things from the garden, and everything outside starts to take shape, and you can see greenery outside again, rather than all the trees that have no leaves and things like that. And I apologise about my croaky voice today. It's because I've got quite bad hay fever at the moment, because there was high pollen content in the air yesterday. So you can also plant out things that you sowed earlier in the year, such as tomatoes and cucumbers. And I've planted my gherkin cucumbers out, and also one moneymaker tomato that I'm trying to grow outside. And by planting these out now, you'll be able to, well, they'll go into their best. And I did say last month that you could plant some of these things out, which you could, but I left it until the end of last month, or start of this month, because I didn't like the risk of frost, because I always worry that I'll lose my plants to frost, and then I'll have to sow them again and I'll get a smaller harvest. So wait now, and your plants will thank you later. If you sow your cucumbers now, well, some people, I know some other Instagrammers that I've seen, have been harvesting, or their cucumbers have been flowering already, and mine are only this small, so I don't know what's happened there. Hopefully they'll start to grow on a bit soon. I will be tying up mine soon as well, and that's another thing. You should be making sure, especially in windy weather like it is today here, you should make sure you're staking up and you're always tying up your tomatoes and your growing plants, your climbing plants, always tying them on so that they don't flop over or the tops don't snap off, because that can be devastating to your crop. As with tomatoes and things like that, and especially bell peppers as well, the flowers come out from the top. So if you snap the top off, that's a lot of flowers that have just gone, and you'll have to wait until the next top grows out. You'll also need to be watering things when they need it this month. So a lot of the seedlings will need it, but once plants are established in the ground, they should be alright, especially if you've got no-dig soil, because it doesn't dry out as much. But you will need to keep watering some things, especially things that fruit like peas and beans, and anything like tomatoes and cucumbers you'll definitely need to water. But anything that's just setting off in the ground, or any seeds that you sowed, make sure you keep watering these and stop them from drying out so that they grow into big healthy crops. And today I won't be needing to water, and I haven't needed to water for a few days now. But before all this rain hit, we hadn't had rain for about 2 months, so I was really watering every day, and I got quite bored of it, to be honest. Lastly, you can do something to do with your flower gardening, which is any things like daffodils in pots or tulips or any spring bulbs. If you want to store them and use those pots over the summer and then re-sow the bulbs in autumn, you can take them out, put them on an old baking tray, and you can dry them out now. You dry them out for at least 2 days. I've left these for a few days now, and they start to dry out. And what you do is you cut the top off, and then you cut the roots off as well. Not all the way, just leave a few millimetres of root there, or a couple of eighths of an inch there. And what this will do is it will let them dry out completely, so there won't be any stalk to put moisture back into the bulb, and they'll just dry out a lot quicker like that. and leave them in somewhere that's out of direct sunlight but has a bit of light, and just leave them to dry out. And then you store them in a paper bag, because then they won't sweat, where if they do sweat it'll be fine because it'll be all absorbed in it. Or if you don't have any brown paper bags, because I know a lot of people can't get out at the moment, you can use old newspapers and wrap them, and this keeps the moisture and the temperature constant in the bulb to stop it from rotting or completely drying out, so that you'll be able to grow them next door. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm sorry I couldn't get outside, but it really wasn't very nice weather, and my camera isn't really waterproof, so I didn't want to risk anything. So hopefully later on in the week there'll be more videos outside, but it does look like this weather's going to continue, so there may be another indoors video coming up, but you never know. Wales' weather is unpredictable. Thank you for watching. Make sure you like, comment and share with your friends. I'll see you next time.